Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where today I am bringing you the first ever Wayne Sharp World exclusive review. Yes, this review will be exclusive to my channel only. I'm the only reviewer to be able to get my hands on these knives before they are available, and these knives are none other than the VBR, which stands for Varga by Reate. Yes, these are Reate-made knives from a very talented knife maker by the name of Mark Varga, who is a very busy man, just hasn't had time to make a bunch of customs. This is a slightly modified version of a very popular custom of his that he decided to go the production route and have a run made by Reate to get his knives into the hands of more people, which I think is freaking awesome. And we're going to cover these knives, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I think of them. Before I do that, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in today. If you like what you see, please do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button, follow along, and I will continue to bring you the content, as well as hopefully more exclusive content. That's been a big goal of mine this year, is to bring you guys unique content that you can't find everywhere else. Very fortunate and happy to be able to do that with this video right here. Now, with that being said, let's cover some specifications of these knives. We have an overall length of 8 inches, with a blade length coming in at 3.5 inches, a cutting edge right at 3.5 inches as well. We have a blade width of 1.14 inches, blade thickness coming in at 0.157 inches, blade steel of M390, very nice drop point style blade, and it gets even better with a pretty gnarly compound grind. And if anyone, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with Reate, their grinds are 99.999% of the time pretty darn flawless. They do an excellent job with their grinds, and we have a couple very good examples right here. Moving on to the handle, we have a handle length of 4.5 inches with a handle thickness coming in at 0.56 inches. Handle width at 1 inch, and the handle materials for these guys, I obviously have two of the options here. We have carbon fiber, which is a very nice carbon fiber. We're going to cover a little more of these two materials in the review, but we have carbon fiber, burlap micarta, green micarta, and then there will also be a full titanium version, which sounds pretty interesting. These are going to be right hand only tip up carry. The weight on these guys, it's not 100% down yet, because it, of course, going to vary by material. And at the same time, I just have not got freaking batteries for my scale yet. But I will tell you this, I'll kind of throw some weight comparisons as we go along in size comparisons. For the size of these knives, they are not heavy. The weight is actually very favorable, not going to be a pocket anchor by any stretch of the imagination. Price on these guys is going to be $325. So $325 for a Reate made knife. Not that bad at all. It's right in there with a lot of the other, the Liang Ma's and regular Reate runs and whatnot of the world. So $325 is a pretty reasonable price for the quality you're getting in return. Now, the designer, Mark Varga. Let's talk about him for just a quick second, because I did not know about him until I was able to get connected with him through a viewer of mine. He said, hey, Mark's doing this run through Reate. You should really check them out. They're pretty awesome. Maybe he'd send you some to review, and the rest was history. So that viewer was Terry. I hope you don't mind me giving you a shout out. Thanks a whole lot for that recommendation. Really appreciate it. Mark has been in law enforcement for 18 years, loved knives since he was a kid. He started making them about 8 years ago, but he's very busy. He has a couple other pretty much full-time jobs that he just can't obviously dedicate probably as much time as he would like to his knife making craft. So to speed up the process and get these knives out into the hands of people, he went the production route, as I said, and he went to Reate, and that was a really good choice. So yeah, so these are basically a production version of his custom, and from what he says, his custom sells very well. Looking at these, I have no reason to think they wouldn't. This is a pretty darn beautiful design, and I'll cover more of my thoughts as we get into the review here. But yes, other than that, These knives have been in the works since October of 2019. So there's been a lot of adjustments, a lot of changes, a lot of little nitpicky things being done. Mark wanted these absolutely perfect for the customer, and I gotta say, just these samples I have right here definitely resemble that. Now let's get into the blade on this guy, because you have two blade options. They're all going to have the same grinds here. As you can see, they're both a compound grind. You're going to have a stone washed finish, which is very nice. It has a very fine stone wash. It almost has kind of a very dull mirror polish to it. You can't really see, anything too, it's not like full mirror, but yes, a somewhat reflective stone wash. And then the satin, which for me, I think I prefer the satin a little more just because I like the grind lines. I like the way the grind lines bring out the compound grind, and it just looks really, really good. You have lines going this way, and then you have vertical lines. So definitely think this is a little more my jam, but I gotta say, I usually prefer a satin over a stone washed, but this is such a fine stone wash. I would compare this to like a Chris Reeve style of stone wash. So it is a very, very nice one. So if you're familiar with that, I think you would definitely like this one. The blade is not much more than just a simple drop point. And what makes it really different is the grind. We have a compound grind that kind of works like a Tonto. I'm going to use the satin version for this only because the lines kind of help distinguish it a little more. But you have a compound grind that is basically a Tonto without its pointy tip here. You have a flat grind on the tip up here with an edge reading of 20 thousandths up here at the tip, which is pretty darn good. And then down here you have a very nice hollow grind along the belly, and the edge on that hollow grind is coming in at 16 thousandths. So this knife is going to get any job done, and it's going to get it done very, very quickly. It's going to go through pretty much anything like butter, as a matter of fact. Just another very prime example of just how darn good Reate is at grinding blades. Very nice swedge up at the top to reduce some weight and also give it some very favorable aesthetics. I don't know how well this knife would look without them, but it has it, so we won't worry about that. Very attractive blade. It kind of reminds me of another blade. I just can't quite put my finger on it of what I'm thinking about. The only real change I would like to make to this blade or critique I have for it is this section right here, because this knife is made to work. It looks fantastic. Anyone's going to love to carry it, but this knife is going to do a lot of work for you. It would be perfect to have some jimping right here. Just enough right there so when you're holding it, which, we will get into the ergos, but yeah, little hint, they're pretty damn good. But no, my thumb is really wanting a little jimping right there. But other than that, I really have nothing negative or any type of real critique for this blade. It's really well done. I like Mark's maker mark, and there's nothing else. There's nothing that says Reate or nothing. Just a very nice sterile blade with the exception of that maker's mark. So very well done there. And I did this. It has such a nice tip on it, mainly because of the grind, but also just the lines, and it's just the perfect thickness. Don't have to worry about breaking it, but you can also get pretty hard with it if you like. So huge fan of this blade. And of course, cannot go without mentioning the finger choil here. Finger choil feels absolutely great in hand. And you know what? As I'm doing this, I just reminded myself, we haven't done size comparisons. So we need to do some size comparisons on these guys, because I have a couple perfect models to give you guys an idea of the size of these. But we're going to start out with a couple different ones. We have a Spyderco Shaman, and we have a Spyderco Smock. So I think that right there, I think most people know the Smock and the Shaman. So there you go with those. But now I'm going to bring in two other knives, which are really the only two that I think I really need to do. I think vast majority of people will recognize this and be able to relate to it. We have the ZT-0562CF. I'm going to pull one aside for a second just to get a nice even lineup of them. So the ZT-0562CF, and of course, you guys probably know this is coming, the Hinderer XM18. Now there are a lot of ergonomic resemblances between these three knives. As a matter of fact, I would say that the VBR is a perfect combination of the XM18 and the 0562CF. I know that the ZT is the ZT version of the XM18. I get that, but this is where I'm really going with this because the ergos on a Hinderer are great. My biggest complaint with the Hinderer is the flipper tab comes down too much. It kind of digs down into my middle finger, but you have that nice choil. You have that nice kind of slightly arcing down handle that just goes into your hand really well. Another reason why Hinderers are so great to work with. And then with this one here, it's obviously very, very similar, but it doesn't have the finger choil up there. You just hold onto it like this, and it's much thinner. The ZT is much thinner than the Hinderer, which you hugely notice in hand. It's also more contoured, which is very nice, and you notice that as well. But what you have with the VBR is you kind of have a little more of the thickness of the Hinderer. As you can tell, if you compare it to the ZT, it may not look it, but it is thicker than this Hinderer. Or it is thicker than the ZT. The VBR is slightly thicker than the ZT and slightly thinner than the Hinderer. But what it has better than both of these knives is the contouring and the smoothness around the handle. This is a very, very, very ergonomic friendly handle. There is nothing on it that I pick apart, that I have anything bad to say. My only concern was back here. We'll get these out of the way, now that you know how big it is. But yes, the only concern I had with any type of hot spot or ergo issues with this knife was right here. But I tell you what, Reate and Mark did a great job of making this, chamfering it and dulling that point down just enough to where it's zero. And I mean absolutely zero hot spot. It's nice and flat, so there's not a ramp kind of arcing up into your hand, poking it. The ergonomics, I kind of hesitate to say it's the best thing about this knife because every aspect of this knife that I review, from the blade to the handle ergos to the action, they're all great. They're all great. I mean, I don't need to hold off to tell you guys that it's made by Reate, so you know the action's going to be good. But I think I would probably say the ergos are my favorite part of this knife, just because the blade is very good. It's very simple. You see nice blades on other knives, but you very rarely do you have such a great blade combined with such great ergonomics and handles. They're just everything about this. It's fit and finish, the transition lines. There's nothing that makes me say, oh, I wish it had this. I wish it would have done that. One thing it doesn't have that I'm glad it didn't is a lanyard hole. I don't really care about lanyard holes nearly that much. It could have been okay to have a hidden one back here. I mean, that would have been all right, but I'm not missing it one bit. I really don't care about it, and because I'm not going to use it. Some people would prefer to have one, but it just looks so much better without a random hole sticking down here. I think most people would agree with me on that. I think this is just a prime example of how keeping a design simple but executing it very well still provides the best results. Whether you're talking high-end, low-end production, or low-cost production. This is obviously a high-end production, so your cost is up there, but your quality goes up considerably with a Reate build knife. But it's just so well done. I'm going to bring in the micarta version here for a second too and talk about these handle materials while we're still on the ergonomics, because this is some fantastic micarta. I like burlap micarta, but it can be really sketchy on how it can look pretty janky sometimes, but this gives it a very good 3D look. It has a pretty smooth finish, but it's still grippy enough to where you get the micarta feel, and I like that. It's walking a fine line. It's almost too smooth, but it's just right for me. And on the other side, it's just as good. Just a really nice pattern, very nice patinaed look, and it just gives it a nice little hit of vintage that I really like. And then the carbon fiber, it's a lot easier to get good carbon fiber, I will say that. But on the sides here, I really like how you get to the sides where they're contouring the handle, and you see more of the vertical kind of swirly, squiggly lines from the carbon fiber, and not so much the cross checker that you see on the front. It's definitely it's definitely the premium carbon fiber you see on Reates and Wies and the other top manufacturers. Just a very, very, very nice selection of handle materials. And of course, the titanium is very well. As far as weight, I mean, I'm comparing the weight here to, I've got a hinderer, and these actually feel exactly the same. And of course, this is a micarta scale, so that's going to take a little of the weight down as compared to like another, a titanium frame or something. I would say these are pretty much identical in weight. I don't have a scale on me, and I'm not a human scale, but these feel pretty much the same. And as a matter of fact, the 0562ZT feels a little heavier. So definitely no problems with the weight whatsoever. Pocket clip, have zero issues with that, going in and out of the pocket, and no hot spot. A lot of good things to say about these ergos. Very, very happy with these ergos indeed. Nothing I would change about them whatsoever. And going into the action, I mean, it's a Reate. Do I need to go into any real strong details? There's not a whole lot more to say than it easily falls shut, has a nice click at the end. You hear that detent activate, pushes right out, nice crisp detent. And this is worth noting too, these knives, and Mark has he's been pretty vocal about this. If you go follow his Instagram, you can see it there. These prototypes, he actually sent these to me, and then he sent the rest of them back to Reate because they had to be shipped back because Reate has to flatten the detents, as they forgot to do that during that step of production. So props to Reate for making it right. And the flattening of the detents will make for a more distinct demarcation from the closed to open position. So you'll feel overall, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's going to give you overall a better detent, a better action. But I got to say, when he said that, and he gave me the option, he was like, do you want to wait until I get those back? Or do you want to just go with the ones I have? And I thought, well, you know what? I'll go with the ones he has. And then if it's really bad, I just won't do it. I'll send them back to him and say, hey, you know what? Send me the improved models when you get them. But I got to say, you wouldn't know the difference. If they're going to make the detent better with the improvements they're making, man, I got to say, this right here this feels like a complete 100% good to go Reate to me. It sounds like it. It feels like it. They both snap out, they both fall shut. So I'm pretty stoked to see just exactly how big of a difference flattening a detent ball will make. I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm not super familiar with a lot of the little details that go into the production of these knives. So it was kind of a little learning thing for me, but man, they're all ready. Watch this. I mean, just falls right shut. I have zero complaints with the action. So to know that the action is going to get even better than it is now is pretty freaking awesome. So yeah, so I may have to ask Mark to send me one of those samples too, or at least I don't know. I want to see some action shot videos or something, because as they are right now, they're absolutely great. So yeah. If you like the style and the appearance of these, I tell you what, if you've been waiting, if you want to experience a Reate build, this is a really good one to do it, especially if you like flippers. If you don't care about Spidey flicking or any of that stuff, or front flippers, and you just want a good solid quality made flipper with what I think are extremely attractive design lines and build, but still with that good touch of just, simplicity, this is an excellent option to go. Overall thoughts on these are really good. They're better than I thought they'd be. When I saw the picture of them, I thought they looked great. It's always hard when you see a picture of something. It is really hard to get an idea of just how good they are until you get them in hand. And I was really glad I was able to get these in hand. And I do want to thank Mark for sending me these along. Obviously, these are loaners. I'm going to be sending them back to him. But, wow. Again, it's another Reate build. I know just recently I kind of dug into Reate a little with a couple quality issues they had, but they keep making me eat my words with every additional Reate model I bring to the table. So very, very happy to see these. I would absolutely recommend these to anyone. They're not available yet. Like I said, these are still being worked on. They will be available soon. If you are interested in either one of these knives or the other two options he has available, you can reach out to Mark on his Instagram at Varga Knives, or you can contact him at varganives@gmail.com. As I said, these are going to run $325, and I gotta say, after holding them in hand and giving them my rundown and carrying them in the pocket for a couple days, I have no reason to say they're not worth that. I've spent more money on other knives that are every bit this quality, if not a little lesser quality, in all honesty. Doesn't really make me happy about those purchases. But no, these are absolutely good to go in my opinion, and to know that the D10 is going to get just a little better is a really nice thing to keep my eyes out for, and I'll be in contact with Mark. I'm excited to see how this goes, but I do see these selling pretty quick. I really do. I don't know how many he's having made. I probably should have asked him that, but I'm sure he would share that information with me. But it doesn't matter. If you want one, get one, because I believe when they hit the scene, you are going to see these on more Instagram pictures, and maybe they will find their way into the hands of a couple more reviewers. But that's all I got for you guys. I'm going to go one more time around with both of them, give you a good look at them. There's the information one more time. If you want them, get a hold of Mark. Let him know. I think you're going to be very, very happy. To all the Hinderer junkies out there that like Hinderers, this is an excellent, excellent option for you. Feels great. Fills hands. I think it'll fill a lot of different sizes of hands. So I'm starting to ramble now, but I just really like talking about these knives because they're pretty damn awesome. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you have anything to say about these knives, let me know in the comments below, and I will be sure to get back to you on that. I hope you've enjoyed this one. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and until the next one, I'm out.